working at high altitude right now, down in Provo, and she's like, they've made her like number 3 in charge already, so
So do you think she'll stay down that way? Or,
probably just because of her job
yeah.
when she graduates, but
Yeah.
ultimately she wants to either be part owner or just a manager of a gym,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but she loves to coach the kids,
Yeah.
she's good at it.
Awesome. So what about, does she have a boyfriend?
She's done with that.
She's done.
She's been burned a couple of times.
She's so cute though. She can be done.
Well, I mean,
For the moment, maybe.
boyfriend, girlfriend, she's like, not right now. She's going to Guatemala in the summer,
Oh, she is?
teach English.
Silence. Should we go and get started? Are we live recording? Yeah, we're good.
It's called ILP, International Language Program. They send these kids all over the world to teach kids.
I had a friend who went to China and taught English.
Well, we want to welcome you to our budget meeting on Thursday, February the 27th. This is a budget work meeting, and so we will not be taking any public comments or any thing from the audience at all, but we appreciate everybody that's here. We're really happy to have Cami Moss here with us, who is our city treasurer. We have Debbie online, and Lisa asked to be excused. So, Cami, we're just going to turn the time over to you and let you explain things to us.
Okay, so I'll explain my spreadsheet and kind of maybe the purpose of our meeting. Good to see ya. So kind of the thought process behind this meeting is the budget is your document. It's not mine to go through and just make. And so I want your input. I want to know what your priority is as a council so that then I can take that information and try to compile it the best I can and then come back to you with basically a budget that kind of I put together, and then I want your input back. This is very much for your input. So I'll eventually print this out for you, but tonight I more so just needed some direction on some certain areas. So I'll explain what my spreadsheet does and everything real quick, and then hopefully dive in and please comment, talk to me. I want feedback. This is your budget, not my budget, okay? I do the best I can to, come up with the numbers that I know of, but this is definitely your thing. It's not me to make up this. So basically what I've done is I've got just an Excel spreadsheet here, and I've got a couple different columns and stuff, but the state auditors require us to present the budget to them in such a way that it has the actual for the 2 prior years, the prior year actual, the current year budget, and then what the future year budget is going to be. So I have 2 columns here. One is requested budget and one's approved budget. And this is kind of what I try and come up with. And then, of course, you guys get to make that final column. If you use my numbers, fantastic. That's great. But we need to communicate and understand what we have as resources, what we need, and how we want to spend that. And it's not for me to decide how you want to spend it. It's for you, because you're the elected officials.
Share a copy of that.
I have not printed it out yet, because this is very fluid right now, but I intend that you'll get it soon. So let me just kind of tell you, this is what my guesstimate as the income is. And I won't go, tonight I don't think we necessarily, and correct me if you want to take this a different direction, but I don't necessarily not too worried about coming up with going line by line as to what the revenues are. However, I'll just kind of explain to you. So this is all the revenues. I've divided them into different categories. Fines, of course, miscellaneous, taxes, kind of similar to the audit that you're used to seeing. And then we've got the expenses here for the general fund. And this is your main operating things, your day-to-day operating in a city. And so we've got like your general governments, and this is we've got the council portion, we've got the operating portion, you've got some ARPA that we had in past years. We have transferred that to other funds as of this point. We've got general government employees, and then the total. Then public safety, recreation, and highways are in here. I kind of broke out the Class C into a different category. Parks, the arena we wanted to track a little bit more, so we've got that kind of broke out separate. Again, your employees section, and then same with your community development. Cemetery, we wanted to kind of break that out a little bit more, so we've done a little bit more there. And then also the transfers. And then at the bottom, this is the totals. And basically what we want to look at is to say at the end, where are we at, and do we have extra funds to spend? Keep in mind that one thing we look at with this is also your general fund is very much just your day-to-day operation of the city. And then we transfer excess money out of the general fund into your capital projects fund. Capital projects funds are meant to house more of your expenses, your larger expenses. It's where you can kind of save that extra money. So, you know, we can transfer more money or less money to capital projects, and we can kind of keep track of some bigger things, maybe save for some bigger things, or we've got excess money there, we spend excess for that. And then we've also broke out this year, as you know, the sewer department and the garbage and the stormwater. And these are kind of set up the same way. So the biggest factor, there's a couple of things that I need to kind of get some direction from you guys on. The first thing is your employees. So what I've done is I've built this spreadsheet that has all employees' hourly rates, their hours, and you'll notice there's a couple that are kind of weird because they, on their hours, because they are salary. And so really they get paid that 26 times, or they paid that 12 times throughout the year. So it is just, that's why we have the two different ones. This is what their annual salary is. And then I've got it calculated here for, we can either determine a percentage or however we want to kind of look at this for possible increases. And then it calculates what their new hourly rate is, what the taxes, the retirement is, long-term disability, health insurance, and so on. And then a couple of weeks ago, Jared and I and Sherry and Ryan was in that meeting, that we went through all the employees and we said, okay, based upon, we felt like the allocation of the employees' times were probably not accurate and up to date. And also we've added these additional sewer and garbage and storm drain. We've broke those out. So we said, okay, Jared, you would have probably the best idea on your employees. So therefore, will you go through, sorry, I'm trying to unhide some columns here, and tell us what percentage of time this person spends on each department so that we can allocate that person's time accordingly. So we have updated this quite a bit. It was definitely a lot different picture than what Jared has, gone through. And if you have a different, if you see any of those that you would disagree with me, by all means, let's, look at that and reconsider that. But that was what we were able to come up with based on Jared and our knowledge. I won't go through each employee, but I'll let you look for a minute.
We thought this was really important because when we were trying to cover, okay, are we charging enough for garbage or not? We weren't really allocating, okay, well, but how much time is being spent on that employee doing garbage or for sewer, because we still have to account for that somewhere within the rates that we're charging people. And we thought, because I think they were pretty far not accurate when we
They
went
were
through them.
really different than what we ended up with.
Yeah.
Didn't you notice that, Ryan?
Oh, they were mostly 100% something. They weren't broken
Yeah.
out at
No,
all.
they weren't.
Yeah.
They weren't 70-20 or
No.
10 or whatever.
No.
They were
Yeah.
all this or all that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I mean, short of going through time cards and seeing what each person does, I figured Jared was probably our best resource
Yeah.
to look at that. So, but by all means, if there's something that we disagree with, but you know, like for example, your utility billing clerk, she does mainly billing for these three departments: your sewer, your garbage, and your stormwater. She really doesn't do much for cemetery, public works, community parks. So we kind of allocated her time more to those departments, where 100% of it was at sewer at that point in time.
And stormwater, we really hadn't allocated really anybody, had we?
No,
to
we hadn't
stormwater?
allocated anything to stormwater or garbage for employees' wages. But
Well, what would they do? What would a stormwater employee do?
a stormwater employee, that would be your SWIP, your repairing your stormwater system, your pipes and everything underneath the road. So
Billing.
yeah, there's a lot. Stormwater is actually a lot of it. And I kind of know a little bit about bigger cities, what they require for stormwater, and it's literally usually 2 full-time people for like a larger city for stormwater.
And
So
we even thought, like Monica, part of our billing does go to stormwater, you know, when she bills it, but we weren't allocating any at all to stormwater.
So that's why we broke that out. But I'm open to discussion for sure. This is your budget, not mine. So that's why I need the feedback.
I don't know what to tell you because I'm not
Do you think-
involved day to day with this. You know, I'm relying on Ryan.
So 44 is parks, right? 45 is roads.
Yeah, oh, sorry, I don't have that over here, but right there is what they are.
Okay, there it
On
is.
this
Thank
group.
you.
Yeah, sorry, I had it, because I have those ones hidden. So, you know,
One reason too, Cammie explained what I thought was really good, why this matters, is because we collect money for stormwater, but then we're not using any of that stormwater to help pay for any employees. So anyway, it just made, I felt like a little more concise record of where our money actually is going.
44 PW parks.
Public Works.
Public works.
Yeah, sorry. Or your streets. I'm used to calling it Public Works, sorry.
So I guess with Cody,
So,
so Cody's allocated 80 hours with him.
80%.
Oh,
Yeah, these are percentages. So
Mhm.
80%
So
parks.
he's mainly streets. I don't know if we need to
Oh.
switch that.
I would agree.
Yeah,
he should be in
that,
Public
that,
Works.
yeah.
Yep,
Do I
yep,
have
good
that
catch.
backwards? I
And
wonder.
then Steve is your park
You know
supervisor.
what? Let me look and see if I have this backwards. If I have that just this dang thing in my way on my screen.
So Steve's right. He's got 80-10 up top because he's park supervisor.
And Scott is parks. I think you have it right. I
44 really Public Works? I'm guessing myself. Do I have that wrong? I'll admit, I deal with a couple cities and I get things mixed up between, because you guys have different account numbers than other cities. So, okay, 44 is Public Works and 45 is Parks. Did I have that right? Because I'm human.
I think the only one
Okay,
good
yeah.
catch that you did.
So, okay. So
Mhm.
yes, I would agree.
Okay.
I mean, I guess we can just look at each employee really quick.
Yeah.
So can we, so this is hard questions, but are all these employees based off of a 40-hour week or 32-hour week?
32. So us is off, well, so me and Monica are 32 hours a week.
Like all the public works guys?
The
Well,
public
they're
works
all
are
40.
40.
Okay,
Out the public works.
so it's just the office employees are based off a 32-hour week,
Yeah.
Well, except for Jamie,
Jamie
and
and
Steph.
Steph work
20 hours.
Yeah.
But you guys are all salary, is that right? No, you're hourly. Oh, okay, I see.
Only
Okay.
salary employees is
Jared?
Jared and Malcolm.
Jared and Malcolm?
Malcolm. Mhm.
So for example, Cody, how long has Cody worked for us?
Let's see,
And
he
then last year,
started, yeah, it was
last
after,
year, I think it was August, September, because he was
oh, he
there
was there for Tomato Days,
so
yeah, probably August.
Not even a year?
Mhm.
And we've already got him at 128,000 a year?
Well, and that's including all their benefits. That's not their salary.
So
Right.
his annual is 80.
Mhm.
So we hired him at 80,000 a year
Mhm.
for 40 hours a week.
Mhm. He came to us from a job where he was getting paid 120,000 a year. He took a pretty big cut to
It was
come to
more
Hoover.
negotiated.
A lot of negotiating, yeah.
Okay.
But one thing about it, and we did the interviews when we sat in, is he was ready to be trained and came that day and was out running the drag line. You know, like Jared said, because we'd been so many years without a road supervisor, we really needed somebody that could come in and start the day off without training. So he's done that.
So one more hard question. Do you feel like all the employees we currently have right now, today, how does that compare with where we were at 3 years ago or 2 years ago or even last year? Like cumulative money we're spending on employees. No offense to anybody.
Oh, no.
I'm just saying,
No.
where are we at dollar figure wise today compared to last year or 2
I
years
could
ago?
certainly come up with that.
Is it like huge difference or just a little bit?
I
Or
You know, Ryan, I would say a little, and I actually have a sheet, you know what, I mentioned that, how we'd gone through, and when I say we, it was us, because that was the question, because I went through, because Teresa had given me a sheet where she had said, this is how much money we're paying, and like I mentioned, you know, no reflection to you, Malcolm, but engineers make more than a city planner, that we were paying Bryant about 30,000 more, maybe even a little more than that, than we're paying Malcolm. So with that little bit, then we could hire Jamie part-time. Monica in the office makes nowhere near what we were paying Teresa. It's probably a third of what we were paying Teresa.
But
And
she
so
probably
then-
does is a third of what Teresa was doing, I would imagine.
Well, except for all of the jobs are getting covered. So what happened was Teresa was doing human resource. Well, Morgan's now doing human resource. And Teresa was doing accounts payable. Well, Morgan's doing accounts payable. Well, now we have Jamie part-time and she's doing the minutes and working on some business licenses. And so every job that was being done is now being done. It's just been a little bit shifting of which
By
people.
multiple people.
Yes, yes. So Morgan, you know, is doing
Yeah, I
other
couldn't
things.
handle
and-
I do. I don't know if you can figure this out, Cammie, but and this is no offense to you, but so Teresa was doing a lot of the accounting
Yeah, she
at,
absolutely was.
at X amount, and you are $250 an hour.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So the comparison I would like to see, and then also we have Bryant, who did a lot of engineering. So that I'd like to see the correlation between what Bryant was doing and then what we're paying JUB that Bryant could have done, and then as well as what Teresa was doing that you are doing now, and make that correlation. You know, if there's a matrix way you could figure that out, because I think you took the whole budget number and kind of, but I think there's still some gaps
Yeah, where are
within
we
that.
dicing it and where are we putting it? And yeah. And I mean, I would be the first to say that since Teresa left, I do spend a lot more time doing the controllership job, and it does take a lot more of my time and my expertise. And, you know, I mean,
So do you, that being said, do you ever foresee a city employee being able to, through training or whatever, being able to do some of what Cammie's being contracted to do?
So my expert opinion on that, honestly, is that you don't have anyone in your staff that has the knowledge base to completely eliminate. However, I'm hoping that, you know, we can definitely shift some of the things that are not necessarily knowledge-based, accounting knowledge-based, to step into that. Now, so you've got somebody, you had Teresa that had a bachelor's in accounting and very fluent in governmental accounting. You have me that was an assistant finance director previously. So you've got two experts and you're trying to replace them with people that have no accounting knowledge, let alone governmental. So are you ever going to fully cover that unless you hire somebody at that level? No. And I'll be honest, I've seen positions out there right now that are going $30 to $40 an hour at least for this type of a position. And is it profitable for Hooper to offer somebody that type of position? Maybe not. Maybe, you know, down the road it might be better thought of as a city manager instead of, and they oversee, and then there's just still the controller type position. You know, I would say that would be better money spent than trying to hire a finance director.
Right.
So,
Couple of things
So-
I can chip
I
in a
was
little
gonna say,
bit.
I have one question. On the employees, I understand that all of their wages were absorbed from other wages that were not being used, is that correct?
Yes, or shifting of ones.
Now my concern is the benefits. Where did the benefits come from? Because benefits packages are quite substantial when you add them along with the price or the wage grade that they're at. So what did we do about all these benefits?
So you have the part-time, the only new position that we added that we didn't already have somebody was Jamie, and she's part-time. So Monica,
She doesn't qualify for.
no, she doesn't qualify.
doesn't get
So we had
APRs.
Monica, who's doing is the utility clerk. Well, was the Teresa, so that benefit was the same as far as that benefit package. The road supervisor, that Cody, and like we mentioned, it's probably been 5 years probably since we've had a road supervisor, and that money was already allocated in the budget for a road supervisor. We just never did. As far as Malcolm, we now have Malcolm instead of Bryant. And going back to a little bit with that,
Well, see, I've got a question right there. So now you said we've got Malcolm instead of Bryant, but we also have JUB,
which we always did
Yeah.
have.
but not as full time, like not as much as we're using.
Yeah, you've
him now.
increased your professional services to compensate for employees that aren't trained as well as the ones that you've
Right.
lost.
Yes.
But to replace the ones that you've lost, you're gonna pay a premium higher too. So is it a weighing game? Absolutely, and that's a hard decision.
So one thing, as Jared explained to me, we never did have the software for Bryant to function fully as a engineer. We never did. Bryant did what he could, and I'm not saying this is Bryant's fault. It wasn't, but we couldn't afford it, and so a lot of the job that Bryant needed to do, we were already having JUB do it anyway.
But how many cases did that happen a year though? How many times did that really happen where we needed more software, even a different computer
Yeah,
that Brian couldn't do?
According to Jared, regularly. And Bryant was in the office, which was great, but even Bryant himself would have told you he spent a lot of his time doing secretary. I mean, he was great. He answered phones, he took bills, he spent as much time in the office being a part-time secretary. And even when I first then came in, I said, we need to get you an office. And because he did, and he would have told you that. He almost became, and it was great. I mean, he was so helpful, but we really did not ever fully have anything prepared to have a full-time
Okay, I'd like
engineer.
to look at that examined. I don't really believe that Brian spent most of his time in the front office just doing secretarial work.
I didn't say most of his time, I said quite a bit of his time. And I mean, if you ask anybody that was out there, but, I mean, Brian's great, but even, I mean, you can go back and talk to Jared about it, but the problem was we just aren't equipped. We're not, because we had talked about that, we want to hire another, and when I say we, I'm talking Jared and I, and he put, we advertised for an engineer, we advertised for a city planner, and we didn't really have anybody apply to be the engineer, but really, Bryant was so underutilized for his talents that he is now the head engineer at Layton City, because we really couldn't, and most of the stuff was really still, we had to have JUB do it. And, you know, Teresa was wonderful. There are still some things, though, that she didn't have the expertise that Cammie has. It's just a difference. But
I'm not replaceable. I definitely am.
Like you said, it's a weighing game. Do you hire the
is.
professional as a city employee that we really need at a premium cost,
yeah,
or do you do what we're doing?
yeah.
Yeah, and that's a
Yeah.
hard game.
That's a hard call.
Because you
It
compare
is.
the difference, we pay Monica an hour to what we paid Teresa an hour, and there's no comparison. You know, Teresa made
But
that
again, I
mistake
think
3
you're not
times.
comparing apples to apples there. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
Teresa had more, she did a lot more than Monica. And
well,
you're trying to
But-
compare,
You used me to
I mean,
you
again-
used additional accounting services. So I kind of started a spreadsheet and I'll work with it
Yeah.
and get it more
Yeah.
precise and give you that
because
information.
it just,
Absolutely.
That's what we're looking for.
yeah, so I
just
guess
the
you look at it,
comparison.
we have a job that needs to be done,
Yeah.
we have 100% of a job that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So we had Teresa then that was maybe doing 60% of the job, and Cammie was doing 40% of the job. Well, now we've switched those. Well, it's still 100% of the job, and we're still
You're spending
probably
more.
paying, we're paying her more because now we have Cammie doing it, but we're paying Monica so much less, you know, and like you say.
And it is. It's a weighing
It
game.
is.
And, you know, if you could go out and find another Teresa, awesome. But, you know,
Yeah,
unfortunately, we are where we're at. So,
yeah,
so what I need direction on is, and this is strictly your, you know, call, but I pulled up the workforce services cost of living, and they are proposing a 3% cost of living. What's your thoughts on what you would like to possibly give your employees? Are you thinking 3%? Are you thinking no percent? Are you thinking 4%, 5%? That's where I need the direction.
So is this start in our first of our fiscal year?
Yes,
in
yes.
July?
This is all for fiscal year.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So by getting some of these numbers that I'm kind of not sure from you, it helps me to come up with a better budget, and then I can print it off and we can go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Does that make sense? And we can say, okay, you want this or you want that. But this gives me a basis as to where to start to try and give you a balanced budget the best I can. I can only work magic so much. So right now I have 3% in there, but what's your feelings? And then I can also, the spreadsheet's designed that, and we can do it a different way even. It does not have to be the way that the spreadsheet's designed, but if you want to know the effects of it right now, I can.
Does your program give us a number, what 3% would be
Yeah,
for
so-
an annual number?
3% means that this is what their their new possible annual, and this is their new possible hourly.
But it'll affect the benefits too, like
Exactly.
FICA and
So
all that
it
stuff.
recalculates everything and
Okay.
puts it into the spreadsheet. So it all these whatever I put in here, like if I put 2%, then it recalculates everything, and it also recalculates everything into these different tabs for me as well. So depending upon what you want to do there, typically in cities I've dealt with, you'll see like a cost of living and then an annual increase, and that's typically what I see. Sometimes I've seen that, you know, they say, okay, everybody that's making under maybe $25 an hour, we want to add an additional 2% or something like that to give your lower end employees a raise. So this right here would be what they would make if we did this, and this is what they're currently at. And I could certainly add a column that says this is what the change is. Do you want me to do that?
Kelly and I, we'd also talked about too, you know, everybody getting a cost of living raise and then maybe going employee by employee. We have some employees with Public Works that really don't make very much at all. And you also look at, you know, some that are like, even for example, Monica that, you know, anyway, but we could actually maybe go through, because rather than it just being everybody across, like everybody get a cost of living raise for sure, but then maybe go through and look at each person and say, hey, do you think this is kind of low, that maybe they should be getting $1 an hour raise or whatever you think. But me personally, I would like to at least see everybody get a cost of living raise, and then you know, maybe kind of go through. I'll tell you kind of some employees that Public Works has kind of mentioned they would be interested in having. So currently Stan Thurgood is one of the lawnmowers, but Stan Thurgood has become someone now who repairs all the equipment. He has a mechanical background. So they've talked a little bit, when I'm saying they, about in Public Works, about possibly having Stan then do more mechanic work, even building maintenance, because it has saved quite a bit of money now that he can repair the equipments, the trucks. He was over making sure they would all pass the emissions with this county. But then if we do that, we also need another full-time lawnmower, or we could do a seasonal lawnmower. But a good thing about having another full-time employee is that they could do the lawn mowing in the summer, and then actually do other things, you know. But we would have to see if we even have enough money for that. So, but that would be something, you know, because then what happened this summer is then when we needed Stan, because we had quite a few of our trucks, so I got a notification from Weber County that they hadn't been in to get their emissions done, and that took Stan a little bit of time, didn't it? But then when he was doing that, then he couldn't be out mowing the lawn. So, and again, that's a weighing, you know, and some things, like there was one piece of equipment, or one of our trucks that they just barely fixed. Well, we could buy the equipment or the piece that he would need to fix it, like the software, it was something with it, or we take it somewhere else. Well, is it less expensive to buy the software and fix it?
Yeah.
Or is it less expensive to actually take it to go get it fixed? And those are some things, you know, that we run into too. And we're a pretty bare bones staff as far as how many we have, you know, in Public Works. We really haven't increased our numbers.
So is there a direction that the council would like to guide me on this?
So the new column did what for us?
It told you the change, sorry.
Well, maybe we could visit with Jared.
Sure.
You know, he should.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he'll be coming to some of our budgets and meetings, and he can tell you. That's what he's mentioned to me, that if they could get another.
Okay, so this is something we want to hold on, or do you want to kind of give me a little bit of guidance, at least a cost of living, and maybe like a 2%, just to give me a ballpark, or, you know?
I mean, it'd be nice to know how much money we have to work with, and then how much total is each percentage going to add to our budget. You know what I mean? Like, how much total money per year does 3% add to our budget? How much does 4% add to our budget? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it'd be fun to see that
So what
total
percentages
number.
would you like me to?
Do a 3%? I don't know. 4%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm not opposed to some of these
Some of the lower ones.
lower ones, maybe
Yeah.
getting additional.
Maybe, like I said, the 25, below 25, maybe, make
Sure.
an additional
Yeah.
3%, and then maybe a 2% annual. So that gives everybody a 5% and then a 3%, and then I'll run a couple different scenarios with that.
Sure, run
Is that
that,
okay?
but then it kind of follows what Ryan's point is. What do we got to work with?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and I get that.
one thing with that too, like we talked about, what I've been suggesting, maybe just go case by case, because well, okay, you know, Morgan's sitting here, but I'll say Morgan, okay, she's above the 25, but that doesn't mean that Morgan shouldn't get that dollar increase just as much as someone else. That's why I thought I would feel more comfortable if maybe then we just kind of went through, you know, maybe depending on what their job, give everybody whatever you decide for the cost of living, but then maybe go through, and that doesn't mean that everybody doesn't deserve a raise, it's just, we have to see money. It's all a matter of budget, if we have the money or not.
Well, we'd love to give everybody
Yeah.
10%,
Yeah.
but what can we afford is my question.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
mean, we need to see what the budget
And-
is, and
And by coming up with where we're at on the expenses, that kind of helps me to say, okay, where are we at? So like, for example, right now we have put in, like I got in the budget, and then I'm coming out now with the general fund at an increase of fund balance of 202. So we have a little bit more wiggle room, and that's even allowing for 400,000 to go over to capital projects. So maybe let's pause there for a moment. Let's talk about our capital projects and what's important to us with capital projects and what we've committed. And then that will give us a better idea of what we have and where I can go from there. Do you see where I'm getting at?
yeah. Just
Because
one thing real quick on that too, that I think sometimes is a real benefit to employees, because sometimes the insurance goes up like PHP. So sometimes we say, okay, we'll give you a 3% cost of living raise, and we'll cover all the increase for the insurance, because sometimes that helps too employees. You know, I think we
Well-
already pay 90%, I think, don't we? And then they pay 10.
And that's where you got to be careful, because insurance could go up
A lot.
a lot more than we think it's going
Yes,
to.
Yeah.
exactly.
So you start with the 3%, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, let's throw another 2, and well, wait a minute,
Yeah,
what are
all
we
of a
paying for
sudden,
insurance?
And I don't think we have those numbers
Yeah,
yet
we're
from the
not got them
insurance.
last I heard.
Because I know like Elton that retired from the state, like 8 years in a row, they received no cost of living, but they covered their increase in the insurance, because they said, hey, we can't do both.
Right,
We can't
exactly.
afford the insurance and the cost of living.
Exactly.
So let's talk about our capital projects, and then that might drive some of the wages. Unfortunately, that is a reality
Yeah,
that
it
often
is.
happens within a city.
Yeah.
So within our sewer department, I sat down with Jared, and we got a list from Jared, and I don't know if he provided you guys the list a little bit too, but this is kind of the list that he provided me, saying these are the projects that he would like to see done. This is the amount that he's estimating the price is going to be, the best he can come up with. And then what I've tried to do is try to say, okay, Jared, and I spent time on the phone with him just yesterday, saying, Jared, what are we looking at each year for 5 years? Let's come up with a 5-year plan. But this is what Jared would like to see, but this is where I want your input. Because I'm saying, in the ideal world, I'm not saying these are what we're gonna get, but this is what he's saying he needs. So he explained to me that he needs a pump every year, these pumps. He needs the vacuum pump exchange. He was saying that there's 9 of them, so he wanted to see that we would take 3, exchange them, 3, exchange them, 3, exchange them, and then do 1 every year after that to stay on top of it. This is a control panel upgrade. I says, okay, what if could we do a portion of it in a couple of years? And is it more priority in this year than something else? So in Jared's view, this is what he would like to see. I tried to kind of even some things out. He said, eventually he would like these things. They're not a must, but if we kind of spread things out, we're looking at probably needing about 250-ish, 275 a year, 290 this year. Based upon that, if I come over here to our sewer budget, I've estimated that, oops, let me get rid of that column F, it's just gonna confuse. I used it for my estimates, but, okay. So this is the impact fees that I'm estimating. And as I did this, I looked at what we've collected year to date as well. We've got some sewer charges, the stormwater, or the Central Weaver Sewer District. This, whatever we collect on this, we send directly to them. So we've got an income and an expense account that directly account to each other. And so if they have an 8% increase, our expense is going to increase 8%. So that's just money in and money out. We've got some finance charges coming in, possible sewer connections. I just kept that similar. Interest, of course, has been very generous to us, so I accounted for that. And then we expect some grant revenues, possibly. And so with that, that grant revenues, is that the ARPA? What did I do? Yeah, that's the ARPA funds. And then we've got utilities, again, that Central Weaver Sewer District, sorry. That is just in and out. A little bit for bad debt, a little bit for sewer administration. ARPA is that spending of that ARPA money. $20,000 for engineering, $20,000 for merchant services, $1,000 for information technology, $3,500 for training, software support, supplies, and some liability insurance.
Where's our payment for the sewer? Like the,
It's down here.
okay, sorry.
Coming to that. Good job. Good question, though. Yes. And then we've got some system maintenance. I'll just let you glance at that. I don't think you need me to explain every line item, but if you want me to, I'm happy to try and explain. We've got depreciation of $525, which I'll explain how I calculate that in here at the bottom. So that's your total equipment. And then your employees, as we've got them in the system right now, is at $218. And then we've got the $530 loan payment. If we did the capital projects that Jared is wanting, then at this point in time, our total income minus our expenses, we have a decrease in fund balance. However, I'm taking out the depreciation because that's not actual cash going out. So more so we'd have an increase of cash of $103,000 for sewer. So we have $103,000 on top of what Jared has requested. Do we want to fund those things? Do we want to add, take away, move? What's your council's thoughts?
The big hit is the Allen Bradley PLC upgrade.
Yep.
Does that have to happen immediately?
He expressed that we are on borrowed time, but
Was that
everything
an
on
asterisk
borrowed
one?
time.
Right there, he didn't asterisk that in our
Oh, he
discussion before.
Oh,
Yeah, he
I
didn't
mean,
asterisk
he
it
doesn't-
before,
he
but
doesn't
when
have
I
a
talked
price
to him,
either.
And it just said bids.
Bid.
yeah.
Did he get
And
a
I
bid?
talked to him last night and that he had gotten a better price on that.
150 was the bid?
Yeah, he had originally told me that he was thinking it was going to be 200. And even though he did not asterisk it, he actually told me that was a big priority.
So if we had a little extra, maybe we could ask Jared, because even those control panel upgrades that we're not starting till year 2, maybe that would be something we could start if he felt like, whatever he thought certainly this would be something we would want, Jared to be here to say, yeah, we feel like this is more of a priority because, some of these things, like you said, when he went through, it's like some things were, like you said, borrowed time.
Yeah,
But
the
some
manhole
things we-
bypass was the big thing, I thought. That was ARPA funds, 83,000.
Mhm.
Anyway, he's got like 6 or whatever things asterisked.
Yeah.
So with all this, we still would have 108 or 103.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
With
Everything
this-
listed on here? every
Even though-
single one? of
No,
these?
with the first year, everything in that first year. So we could
Are
definitely.
these the asterisk ones, the
Yeah.
first year? Or,
They're the high priority
oh, high
ones.
priority
Yeah.
ones? And those are all in
And
the
when
first
I
year,
talked to
probably.
Jared last night, some of the things that he was saying were high priority here, he kind of changed. So this was what he conveyed to me last night, saying is his high priority. But maybe we need to ask him to come in
Yeah,
and say,
I
Jared,
think so.
in a council meeting,
Yeah.
saying, Jared, you need to, or in a work session, saying,
Yes.
you need to be here and boycott for this.
Yeah.
He is also telling me that in the near future, he is going to need another full-time employee, 100% to sewer, in the not too distant future. That right there will gobble up your 100.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So do you take advantage more now, and then next year maybe have that new employee?
Cause you can't roll that 103 over, can you? It's gotta be
It goes
allocated
into
somewhere.
fund balance, yeah. So your fund balance right now in your sewer department. Actually, I think I have it there. Let's just download the part. Oh, right here. Your current fund balance, and then after budget. Is that right? Sorry. But it might be right. That's
You know
right.
how
but
we
we've
don't
got-
have anybody else that holds our current license but Jared? I don't know if we have anything, I know we have some allocated for training, but do we have enough in there to get other people that are holding the license and,
That was part of why Jared wanted a full-time employee, is because he says we need, somebody else for him.
yeah.
Darren doesn't hold the license.
Mm-mm. The only one that does is Jared.
We should probably train Darren.
I think so too. Well, I had at one time, wish list when I talked to Jared. I said, Jared, it would be really nice to have like somebody that when they're on call, because they really have to take two for safety reasons. But it'd be really nice to have one that was trained, and they can always take someone else. So they only had to take one weekend a month, but there was always somebody that was. If not, then you basically have Darren and Steve that end up on call. And that is a lot to ask our employees to be on call
All the time.
all the time. And Jared, of course, is available and goes when he can. And I know Cody's being trained, but they've actually told me sometimes it'll be like one of our other employees on call. I know one time there was, and I don't understand all the sewer, but it was, Stan or someone else. Well, they went there. Well, they don't know. So they end up having to call one of them anyway. Like they call it a hung valve if it's just our candy canes, but if it's anything other major than that. So it would be really, I think, to our benefit, like you said, let's have someone else that has their license, someone else that's trained, and so they're just not the same ones every weekend that are getting, having to be on call. And they need the expertise, because we have so much money involved in our sewer system, and it's such a technical, I know that one time they said they were really close to a major catastrophe, and they called him that man, you would know his name, that one that's retired, they said, and is 83, and
Yep.
anyway, yeah,
As soon as he dies, there's nobody else that knows it.
so we've got to get someone else that could be trained. And
Zach doesn't know anything.
no, the AirVac, and it's not good to only have one person necessarily, like he said, it's only Darren. Like Jared even himself says, I don't know what Darren knows. But then we need someone else that holds the license, because eventually, we just need someone else too. But I don't know if that's already built in the budget, is for that training to get someone else licensed. I don't know.
I have not built
So
that
we've
yet.
got $3,000 in training certifications
Probably not.
per year.
Yeah, I
per
would
year.
not say that would be.
And we've only spent
Building that in,
$130
so.
this year.
Yeah, I don't think we're sending them to the trainings that they should be.
No.
And I don't know how much the license is to do that sewer.
So I know Cammie mentioned trying to create a budget that's a little more tight in all of these categories instead of being way under or not spending this money every year. So the sewer is an example. So after January, we're basically 60% through the year, but we've only spent about 50% of the sewer budget. But as you go through these categories, there's a lot of them that are zero, you know, and I mean, I know we had the conversation about line items and coding correctly, but overall, there's 10 to 15% of the money so far this year, and it seems like it's like that every year. You know, that we don't ever spend 100 or even 90% of what our budget is, and so that money I think should go towards this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it stays in that fund,
Until
and
you
it
get
goes
to
to that fund
35%,
balance.
though, right?
Not on enterprise. Enterprise, we can go as much as
Much
we
as you
want.
can.
Yeah, yeah. It's just that general fund, and what the state is doing with that general fund, with that 35%, is they're saying we don't want you to have a bunch of money there just for your operating. If you're going to use that money, you need to put it over in capital projects. And that's all they're saying is that you need to shift it over to capital projects.
So does this document show our fund balance in those enterprise
It
funds?
does, if you go a little bit further, I don't have, on this computer, I have it at my office, but in the information that I send out in the email, it has the fund balances in there, restricted fund balances and such. So right now, your sewer department, it has an $11,000 fund balance, but we have to take out the fixed assets out of that.
11,000.
Or, sorry, 11 million, sorry.
I was gonna say.
I'm dealing with thousands right now,
I'm
sorry.
getting scared here.
I've been looking at numbers too much all day. Tax season, so fun.
So it's got 11 million.
But our fixed assets, with just a quick calculation on the fixed assets, we're actually the structure's killing us. That's right, 275 minus that means we have to take out how much? So we've got after our fund balance current would be 3.1 million.
For sewer. And is that one then that we can spend for expenses, needs to be rolled into capital projects?
We can spend that. I would not encourage us to spend it,
Yeah,
too
sure.
much
Yes,
down.
yes, I just didn't know.
But
for
yes, we do have that, 3.2. So we could, within the sewer, spend some of this money to get more of these long-term projects done at once.
So you're saying we could spend what you've got up here and still be okay on our year-to-year budget? Would be over 100,000 still.
Yeah.
Then why not, right?
So,
How
If
much
we have
time
a-
do? Oh, go ahead.
If we have a 3 million backup,
yeah.
in essence.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably should, again, I would ask Jared how much he feels like we should have in a savings backup,
Right.
just in case if, like, wonder if we, because they tried to get an extra pump for every single state, but how much do we want, just in case of, what if we had, because he said,
catastrophe.
a catastrophe.
An earthquake and they all blow
Well,
up.
but even like we have pumps that only are supposed to have 10,000 hours or however they equate it, and ours are at 20,000. We keep babying them along, but what if all of a sudden one quits and then in a day, like Jared said, in a minute we could. So maybe we get some extra pumps added on with this extra money, but it still have so much.
Well, and if that's the case, then maybe we would increase this pump a little to double the pumps, and this year, and that. So you're comfortable with at least doing these to 90. And
Yes.
maybe have Jared come in and have a work session
Yeah.
with us to give us a little bit more of what his priority is.
I don't want our sewer system failing.
Well,
I don't
e-
either.
Bad.
That would be not very good.
So even like on number 16, like Jared said with the van equipped truck, he said, okay, maybe this seems like something that's not a necessity, but he said, this is what happens. So they have equipment, but it's on different trucks. So they go to a site and they see what it is and they come back to the shop and get that part. Then they go to the site and say, oh no, well we needed this other. And he said, what most cities will have is a van truck that's just equipped with anything they need for emergency. So if someone's on call and they come to the shop, they get that one truck. They know whatever they need, they will
It's on
have
there.
it.
Yeah.
Because he says half the time they spend their time going back and forth because they don't always know till they get there. So he said that maybe seems like maybe we can't get that right now. And he said about the small sewer camera, but he said that would be something if we had, then could really also save us money. I mean, we've been getting by with bare bones, but maybe some of these things would help us really in the long run save money, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
And the vacuum trailer, I can't remember specifically, but do you remember, Ryan, what he said about the vacuum trailer? Was that one that they have to rent or they bought? What was that?
It was kind of a wish list item.
Yeah. I think the vac trailer is because Twin D sold out and a couple
That was
others,
right.
and it's getting hard to get vectors on site, which I'm hearing with other cities as well. That they used to, be able to drop of the hat call the Denny's and say, get over here, and now they can't.
Or we could always get another employee too, which really would be I think it's something important we could look at.
What's the maturity date of our loan? How many more years do we have on that?
The loan,
8 more?
So,
8 more?
no, it's like, we still owe almost 8 million.
8
in it.
million?
So
And
it's
it's
about
500?
16,
it's quite a bit.
So do we
16 more
pay
years.
$500,000 a year?
$500,000
We
a year.
have
We-
6.5 still owing on it.
6.5 million, so that's
13
12, 13 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got a ways,
yeah.
so we're
So
still.
0% is the good
Yeah,
news.
0%.
Yeah, so you don't
wanna-
pay it
we don't
off.
pay it off.
By no
yeah.
means. 0% is not heard of anymore.
But we really
We'd all
want to,
love
we've
that,
got to
though.
keep all of our equipment and everything maintenance. I mean, we can't get to the end of the loan and it's probably paid off. And then by then, everything's not working, so that's why it's so important.
Now, here's a thought, and this is just a thought to throw out there, and I have a concern about our fleet. I'm hearing that our fleet's quite old, and none of this is accounting for new vehicles. Do we need to start rotating a few trucks a year? Or purchase, a truck here and there?
Did we purchase one last year?
We did.
Okay,
purchase
all right.
one.
I just want to make sure that one's not in the
Yes.
Yeah,
equation.
yeah.
Okay.
But I heard there was, an 80 something?
Yeah, ours are
I
pretty
can't
low.
remember.
Is it better to lease them? I know some cities lease them for 3 years and then because they can depreciate them and
Well,
Oh, that's-
so
I
I
don't
know
know.
some cities, there's a couple different approaches. There's just the lease, where you just lease them every year, which some cities like, and that's fine, and you just have a set amount. I haven't done a whole lot of studies of them, but I've done one. Actually had a firm come in and do the study, and it actually wasn't more cost effective to lease. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be the same for a different entity. But I know there's quite a few entities that they purchase the truck on the state contract. You have to keep it for a year, and then they turn around and sell them for more.
yeah.
Same with backhoes. That's why you see
Yeah.
these city entities that have like backhoes, track hoes, and stuff, and every year they're getting a new one, because if they buy it at the contracted price at the state contract, then the same people that they're buying it from come back and buy it from them the next year for a higher price, and they go sell it to Joe down the road that he's able to get a better deal because it's a year old.
So how do we get
But-
on that program?
It takes a while to get that going because you've got to
At least
roll
have
them
to buy
over
one a year. I
every
mean, ours are, we
year.
have the one nice one. Well, we probably have a couple that are good. The rest of ours are really pretty old. So somehow we've got to bite the bullet and say,
As soon as you
okay,
bought
every
one,
year. Yep,
it'd pay for itself every year.
yep, yep. And Cammie has a lot of experience with that because she's done it with other cities.
It's a great option, and it's something that, you know, if you're interested in, then we need to direct somebody within staff to spend the time to negotiate that with somebody and to start looking at it. But literally, the ones that do it and make money at it, you would take your whole fleet and buy a whole new fleet. And then the next year, you would sell that whole fleet and make a profit. But, you know, you have to have a big upfront cost because how many trucks are we talking? And we all know how pricey trucks are right now. I don't see it with larger trucks like your 10-wheelers and your Bobcats. I typically don't see that because you've got to have sanders, you've got to have, you know, all those things retrofit.
Well, what if you did it with one or two, did it for a couple of years, and then made the money to buy a third, and then do it for 3 till you make the money to buy a fourth? You know what I mean? Because you're making money on the market to resell them,
Yeah,
and so you just reinvest that money into that program and just keep going until you've replaced the fleet, and then we're in Fat City.
yep. Because what we've done, we've like Steve's truck, you know, wouldn't pass emissions and his feet would go through the bottom. I mean, we've really waited till the trucks pretty much.
Well, the old Flintstone.
But I would really like to see an employee too. I think we really do need another trained full-time sewer employee.
So you as a council, would you rather have another truck or would you rather have an employee now? Or would you rather have
We want
another?
both. Come on.
Well.
So
I'll tell you
what
what
needs the
Dad
greatest
says.
from, I mean, obviously I don't know which one's more important. What's the feedback from the staff? What's more important? I know they're both important, but what do they
Staff
want?
has kind of,
What's that?
I would say employee.
Yeah.
Employee.
that's
I
what
would
Jared
say
has more so
employee.
said to me is employee.
Yeah. Well, then I
And the
would take
training.
their advice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
the licensing, I think we
I don't
really
know how
need
you
to
guys
get
feel,
someone
but-
licensed.
what do you think, Dale?
Yeah, just go back to Jared, he'd be the one.
I know, hey, you have to lean on him.
I
He's,
know. I kind of wish he was here to help us with this.
So that's to allow our guys that are always on call to have their weekend off, to
Well-
have this extra employee.
Yeah, but also to have somebody else trained, because if by chance Darren goes on vacation, you know, we give our guys vacation days, but then we say, sorry, you can't ever take them because you can't be gone.
Right.
So it really does give somebody else, and we really have got to get, well, I suggested to Jared, I didn't know how much it would be though, like, maybe we have 3 people that are licensed. You know, why are we only having one person that's like Jared said, I carry the license, but I don't know enough about the sewer. It's Darren.
What's the cost to get licensed?
I don't know. We'd have to figure. I don't know what that
I'll
would
ask
be.
him.
Well,
what
so
the
can we?
cost
So I know again this is a wish list, but there wouldn't be enough to do an employee and one truck this year. Probably not.
You know what? Is
But I go
is
back
an
to the $3
employee
million.
the first and then
If we
the,
can make an investment with a couple $100,000 and start this fleet program,
Yes.
then you put that money back into the $3 million fund, but you've got this fleet program going.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I mean?
agree.
you'd have to communicate that well with the public, because if you see all these new trucks.
For sure.
yeah,
That
there's
could be a
a
problem.
lot of pushback. with
So is there, I wonder if,
public not
you know,
understanding.
maybe you throw it out there where maybe there's a part-time, like a guy that's retired from a different city, and we contract a part-time guy that wants to be on call or whatever. I don't know if that's an option or not. Or do we need a full-time one?
I
He
think
expressed full-time, but
Okay, all right.
I'm not saying that he wouldn't be open to that
Well,
idea.
the biggest problem when I've even talked to other workers is they go on call on sewer on the weekend and they don't feel like they're trained, and it almost is even a safety issue because we send that. I mean, like I said, that you know they call it this hung valve. It's just like with our candy canes, and they'll bring them. Those they can easily do, but if there's anything more than that, they actually said it's a safety issue. We are sending people that aren't trained out to work on this multi-million-dollar sewer system that our city is all dependent upon.
Especially with the high water table
Yes,
and those pits being full of water all the time.
yeah.
So that gives me some direction with the stormwater, or the sewer, sorry, that's great. Okay, garbage, we are now starting to allocate some of the employees' costs there, plus also some of the merchant fees, which is your credit card processing fee. And then we estimated about a 5% increase for those. That's what we've been told that we are to expect, is a 5% increase on those. Sorry, I'm in your way. I am.
No, you're good, you're good.
So are we going out for bids, or what are we gonna do?
I say let's go out for bids.
I do
I-
too.
I think we should. I'm not saying we won't stay with Waste Management, but we increased our fees last year, and then July 10th, we got a letter saying, because their increases don't go up until July, and it had already gone
We
up,
didn't
so we
know.
were already, we didn't know. So now, for us to go up 5%, we should go up 10% to account, and really, they tell us we probably should every year have a small increase for our residents. No one wants to do that, but if not, we're going in the hole, and I feel like those funds should cover themselves.
This fund should really come out close to zero. So what I've implemented here is, and again, if we're gonna go out to bid, we may adjust this, and I want your input as well. But I estimated a 10% increase for regular garbage and a 15% increase for recycling to help cover the costs, and that only gives us $10,000 of extra. So it's break even pretty much when we're talking government funds.
And Waste Management might be best, we don't know, but if we don't go out to bid, we will never know.
Well, at least from Republic and Robinson, we gotta get bids from
I
those
think
two,
so,
because
too.
they're the two big ones.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And they're good, reliable companies. I've dealt with both of those,
Do,
and they've been good.
do either of those provide the cans, or one of them we had to buy the cans, if I remember right?
Robinson, typically you have to purchase the
Purchase.
cans.
So are they stored here on site,
You
or
store them on site, you deliver them yourself as well.
you
so
pay
you
for them
almost
upfront,
have
or
to
pay them
have-
as you need? So maybe we have 100, I don't know, how many you keep
So-
on site?
It depends on how many you can purchase. The city's in charge of purchasing those cans with Robinson. Steve typically has you purchase those cans, and then you turn around and manage those cans. If there's a broken can, you're responsible to replace those. He's strictly just doing garbage. So that does create another man. So it's like, okay, are you paying more for the professional service, or do you pay more for another employee? So I would almost encourage you that if they're saying that you have to manage them the way that I'm not saying that's the only way Robinson does it, but that's the way I'm familiar with it, then you need to almost also factor in another at least part-time person, maybe a retired person, to come in and deliver and replace cans. And then you've also got to factor in purchasing the cans, which could be a big cost with everybody in the city now needing cans. I don't know if Waste Management would be interested in selling us all the cans for a discount or something, and then we just have to replace them. But keep that in mind, that you have to compare donuts to donuts, not apples to donuts.
When we go out for bid, one thing I would like to know who's got the biggest can. Because I know Waste Management
Went down.
went, mine got broke, and they brought me this little
I
skinny thing.
agree.
It's like, what's up with that?
But you know what? I also know Republic in another city that I deal with. Theirs went smaller too.
Really? So maybe they all have, I don't know, but
Yeah.
something to think about.
But also, I would love to have green waste, which
Green.
like
Oh.
your
Okay.
manure
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay.
and your trees.
Greenways,
We would
okay.
be like bank here in Upper. I know a few manure cans.
I went to one workshop in Providence City, who has about the same population as us, felt like it was cheaper for them to buy their own garbage trucks and do their service all themselves.
Oh.
Really.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I thought, I don't know that we
I
want to
don't
take
know.
that on, but they did. They ended up buying a garbage truck and did it themselves and said it was so much less than what they
Wow.
were. But I mean, I'm not saying we want to do that, but I'm saying there's maybe some other options we should look. And I think it looks good, the optics for our residents too, that we're looking.
Absolutely.
You know, we're not just, because we are going to have to pass the increase on to them.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely not looking to make money in that fund. We're just trying to stay status quo on that fund.
Yeah.
And that's why I like having it broke out in its own fund, so that we know that right off. You know, we can look at it and say, yes, it's making money, or we're losing money, we gotta fix that.
Yeah.
So,
So how many trucks did they buy?
I think it was only like 2.
I think
And then just
Yeah,
have
it's
or
just-
not all the same garbage day, like probably random garbage days.
Yeah. Well, because the man that was there said that they'd ordered the trucks and it didn't come in, so then they had to borrow a truck from another city. But I mean, we have kids that live there. I could certainly call up to Providence and see.
See what their whole program
Yeah,
costs.
yeah.
I'd be interested.
Mhm.
yeah, because I've never dealt with a city that has.
No.
And if you
Funded it
if
this
you can lease those trucks and it's you
Yeah.
know and then it's under warranty all the time. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
I
something to
didn't
look
know
at.
enough about it
Yeah,
either.
definitely something to entertain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So Robinson doesn't make sense though. If you buy the cans,
Yeah.
so you own the cans, what happens if you switch contracts and go to somebody else? You still have all these cans?
Yeah.
To do
And I don't
something
know
with
if the new contractor, well, I know a city I dealt with, they did have where they owned all the cans and they went to Republic. Republic provides the cans, but Republic said because you already have those cans, then once they break, we will start replacing them. But I don't think they gave them a discount or anything based upon them having the cans already. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And I know up until a couple of years ago, West Haven just let their residents contract with whoever they wanted. Well, then West Haven said, and we used to walk up there, and they said, so every day you'd have a different truck, company. Then West Haven said, okay, wait a minute, all the wear and tear on our roads, because every single day you're having another garbage. So then they switched and went to Waste Management and said all of West Haven had to have Waste Management, because they had Republic, Robinson, what you just saw 'em. So you walk on Monday, it's Republic, you walked on,
That's crazy.
yeah, and so
I would-
again, you're weighing it.
Mhm.
Is it worth it that you just do with one company, or have the wear and tear on your roads, because every day you have
Garbage truck.
a garbage truck?
Yeah.
But
And
I
I
think
think
this would be
it's-
good to look into some of these.
Yeah, and I think as citizens, they don't want to have to go out and get their own garbage. I mean, I know
No.
I don't.
No.
I would assume you guys would feel the same way. You don't want to have to go get a contract with the garbage.
What would you do with the broken cans if we owned them?
If you own them, there's two ways you can, well, first off, the cities I'm familiar with, they go through and they salvage the parts off of them and they put them on and repair old ones, what they can. And then the ones that you can't, rotation, or is it rotation? Moldings? No. It's a place up at, just up here that actually will take them and melt them down and recycle them. And they give you some money for them, but it's very minimal. I can't
So we
remember the
probably
name
have
of it.
5 to 10 broken cans a week.
Yeah. And they, especially this time of year, they break like that.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, we all know that, so, yeah.
Or you dump your garbage and it comes back, it doesn't have a lid.
Yes.
So.
Or it falls in the.
So I think, yeah, we definitely, what I'll do kinda is keep it status quo, but I think as we put out the bid, we can definitely adjust that and reconsider that for sure.
I like we're breaking them down separate though, because before it was just, I like so we can see,
It's
okay,
too
this is
much.
garbage, this is
Yeah.
garbage, this is sewer. We thought that even when we talked about cemetery. How do we know if we're charging enough for cemetery if we don't even know what cemetery is? So I like breaking them down into more.
Okay, so let's talk about your stormwater. So we've got some long-term commitments there. We have the 5900 West project. We're estimating that, I think we're pretty good on the estimate of 820. We have 169,000 that will be ARPA funding for that particular project. And then, so of that, if we come over here to our stormwater, and I think we've already committed that has to be done this next year. So we've got our stormwater charge, we've got that ARPA funds, we've got a little bit of interest. We've given some more stormwater expenses with the new SWIP audit. We are going to have to start sweeping, and they're proposing to subcontract that out. So PERS are just a maintenance nightmare from my experience, but that's my experience, not saying that's what it is. Engineering fees are, I've got a little bit of that because I'm assuming there'll be some engineering relating to this. But I'm open for, do we think that's not gonna be that much within SWIP?
We don't know either till we get the audit back,
No.
what they're going to
Yeah.
expect, and
Yeah.
we won't know
And
that.
it's, I'll be honest, I have firsthand knowledge from the person I go home to at nights about the new SWIP regulations. Oh boy.
Yeah, we don't know. They said Clinton, was it Clinton? They said had like 59 finding, or is it?
And that wasn't
Sunset?
bad.
That wasn't bad, and had 59 findings, and we don't know what we're going to have. So that might have to have an adjustment, and we may not get that back by the time we have to have this budget done, will we? Because how many months did Jared say they've told us till we will have our findings? Is it 3 months? 3 months, and then you have 6 months maybe after that to get those things done.
But did they realize it's apples and oranges between Sunset and Hooper, or Clinton and Hooper? Like, we have
It's a total difference.
tons of roads without
98 miles, did they say?
curb and gutter,
Yeah.
right? It's just open ditches, and then we kind of have a hybrid system compared to all these cities that have 100% curb and gutter.
Yeah.
So how
it's a
can they even
total
compare us to anybody else?
difference. Jared did make the comment that it was more paperwork problems
Oh,
that
geez,
they ran
of
into.
course.
So that would be more
Straight
your
as that.
engineering.
Yeah.
So I know.
Yeah,
You
he did say
just
if
cringe.
we wouldn't have had JUB, we would have been in really big trouble because they've been doing our SWIP. But again, we have JUB do it, or do we hire a full-time person that we, so.
And then they've got to go to
Yeah.
trainings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's hard with these smaller cities to say at what point is it profitable to hire a full-time person and pay the wage you're gonna have to keep them as opposed to hire it out by all means.
So back to the 5900 project. Have we talked to the contractor over here on Greens Landing? Is he still on board?
I think they did meet with him, as far as I know too, and that might not be, it might not cost that much. We're hoping not, because you know how when we did it, there was some of that mobilization, but those are built-in costs that you always want to make sure you have enough, and then maybe get a little extra, then all of a sudden have to be coming up with money that we haven't allocated in the budget.
So as far as we know, that he's still a go with us. Okay.
Yeah, we sure hope.
Okay, so if we do that, we have a decrease in our fund balance of $653. Right now, we have a fund balance of $707. So that would mean we only have $53,500 in our stormwater fund balance, which is a little concerning.
And that's where the money would come from for those, you know, like we mentioned, which project do we do first? The cemetery road, correct, that collapses?
I
or-
think we were talking that those could be Class C, so that would be general fund.
But if it's the drain pipe, I thought Jared said if it was the.
We were saying that he thinks that it's all streets.
Good. Well,
I don't know. He's the expert.
Yep.
I'm
Yes.
relying on him.
Yeah.
So
He's given me a sheet once that had 13 and he'd classified them as storm drain, but no, we'll go by Jared, whatever he thinks, so.
he seems to think that we can use that accordingly. So yes, that is a concern. We may want to consider doing an impact fee study and start charging developers for a stormwater impact fee. That's definitely something that I would encourage. I would encourage an impact fee study straight across to implement that, because the developers, definitely have an impact on our city and should pay their accordingly.
A lot of cities do have an impact fee for storm, we just haven't.
Yeah. So
And a road impact.
And we don't have a road impact
No.
either.
Really?
the only impact fee we have is your sewer,
And
which
sewer.
is actually more so the sewer district, and your parks. Those are your only impact fees.
What were we thinking?
I don't know.
Because when we were meeting on the 5100, with West Haven, they said, oh, just use your impact fees. Do we have road? And Bryant and I looked at each other and said, oh, no, we don't have road impact fees.
So I'm kind of looking at y'all and thinking that we need an impact fee study.
Mhm.
Okay,
How
can we
much
get
is
a,
the study to do?
I'm not sure how much they'd be.
Is the study just to figure the amount to charge? Is that it?
Yeah, but you
Okay.
cannot charge an amount without an impact
Oh,
fee
okay.
study.
Alright.
You cannot set that. I had a cute little city do that without setting that, and that was a big oops.
So again,
So,
it's like
yeah.
you paid, I'll just throw out a number, you paid $20,000, and I don't think it'd be that much, but if you pay $20,000 for that study, but then the first year you get 10,000, you know, then again, we say, is it worth, and it is. We,
Well, yeah,
that's
it
something
is.
we have got to do.
Well,
is-
both roads and
and
stormwater.
yes,
Yeah.
for
I would
positive.
just, whoever's going to do the impact fee study, say, let's do every impact fee that we can,
Mhm.
you know? Not saying that we're trying to gouge them, but on the same token, they've gotta pay for their impact that they're having on our city.
And
Well,
our
it's-
park hasn't gone up, I think Jared said, it's been
It's been a
20
long
years or
time.
something, we
Wow.
haven't
Park
increased it.
impact is 1,217.
What was that again?
Per house.
1,217.
Per house? For a park?
Well, for new builds.
Oh, new builds,
It's only
okay.
been new builds.
Yeah.
But I
So-
know it's been a long time.
How do we post that we want to, because we'd have to solicit bids, like 3 bids to get that impact study?
I think there's only, it's
Or
like
who
our
does it?
engineering firm
Yeah, I
that would
think
do
you,
it.
typically I've seen JUB do them. I'm not saying they have to be the one, but that's what I've seen. I'm sure there's others out there that do them, but typically that's what who I've seen do them.
So since we have a contract with them, we could go ahead and just
Yes.
get a bid or whatever. I don't,
There is a transportation study that,
Oh, yeah,
that
transportation
they
study.
have done, that Jared's just reviewing, that has to do with all our roads and everything too, because every year they have to go through and count every new road, because you get Class C road funds based on that. But that takes a long time too, to go through and say, okay, we have this new, you know. Yeah, it's a huge document, which you will be seeing, I suspect, probably the second meeting in March. Because I just sent that to Jared today that I'd gotten from JUB, and then, but they need to review it.
And I know you're going through your fee schedule. I encourage us to include it as part of every year when we do the budget. We also adopt the fee schedule. I've not been involved with that, but I would also encourage you to consider your cemetery, that most cities that have a cemetery have a perpetual care fee, because what happens when that is built out, who's caring for that? And that perpetual care, typically what it looks like, I'm not saying this is how it has to be, but we'll have like a corpus amount, and then the interest off of that, maybe half of that interest can be spent. Doesn't have to be, but it's banked, so that when it is built out and no longer generating money for the city, that there's a means to care for the cemetery and not just have a old field with maintenance.
so where does because the property tax we pay right now came from the cemetery.
The theory
From what I
is
understand,
that
so where does that go?
it's in the general fund.
Could,
Yeah.
It's
So-
not a
So your
substantial.
property
Right, it's not
tax
a
is
lot.
only 290 is what I'm
Yeah.
estimating, and that's with new growth as well.
so you're saying within, like, when someone purchases a plot, you add money to that would be saved in account to, okay.
Yeah, it's like its own separate account, and we manage it so that, you know, once that cemetery is built out, and I've seen that they charge a set fee for residents and a set fee for non-residents, so that your taxpayers aren't necessarily paying for that, you know, perpetual care. Just as an idea of something I've seen that, you know, is an effective
And
tool.
Cammie and I would talk about too, then you could save that money, because Jared had mentioned, you know, there's land that's directly to the south of our cemetery. Well, maybe sometime when they go to sell it, we could even purchase another little piece, but right now we don't have money for that. But if we had all this money gradually saving, you know, so much will go back and so much is saving, then maybe we could then, you know, purchase another, because as we know, Roy Cemetery is completely full. and as these other ones fill, and Hooper has spaces, even though we charge more for non-residents, it still takes a spot in our cemetery.
So while we're on cemetery, is this fee schedule current, or is it still
Yeah, so the one that's in front of you is
what you charge right now? Okay.
And sometime too, not tonight, because we went out of time, but then Morgan can share this with you, because we divided this up, and like Stephanie, who's over cemetery, she called and found prices and then has some recommendations. Debbie and I had worked on parks, mainly Debbie, and we have some suggestions for parks as far as what we should do, but that's on Morgan's, and we can review that another at our next meeting.
So we don't rent out this building, do we? Because it's on here.
Anymore.
not anymore.
Yeah, so
Okay, that's what I thought.
this needs to be updated.
Okay.
And
One
there-
of the things too with the fee schedules, we're gonna try and get rid of the deposits. That way there's no back
Oh, yeah.
back.
What a pain in the neck, huh?
Yeah, it's awful. So we'll just up the price a little bit on the fees to accommodate
Yeah.
the.
So
Okay, Cammy, what's
the next section would be your capital projects. So capital projects is, like I said, you've got this extra money that you've saved for these bigger projects, okay? These things are such things as your equipment, your supplies, and everything like that. So as I looked at it, right now, our unrestricted fund balance is 2.8. Our park impact is 8,700, and then I've got over here a $400,000 transfer from the general fund over to capital projects. Typically, we've been doing 200, but I would encourage us to, maybe increase that due to needing some additional equipment. But that's definitely up for discussion. Let's maybe talk about what things we want, and then that number we may want to adjust accordingly. So here's some of the things that your staff has expressed a need for. We've got a zero-turn mower. They are proposing that we get that every other year. We get a new one for the next couple years to get us up to date on that. They said they at least need one this year, because the ones on borrowed time, it's literally pieced together, I guess.
We haven't bought one every other year.
No, but ours is just so old, but again, it would be that, buy it and then sell it, and then,
Oh, the same program, you turn
Yeah.
around and sell them?
yes.
Really?
Because our one now, Jared found a used one that he went, and so they pieced together. They took like an old one and kind of pieced it together. So no, we haven't, I don't even know how.
So we wouldn't make money on the mower then? We turn around and sell it, and we don't make any money like a
Well, we
vehicle?
possibly would make some money.
So it shouldn't cost us that much then?
Yeah, the next year it wouldn't, but I have to put it in for expense purposes for state budget. Truck, they have expressed a desire to have another truck along with a second mowing crew. And that would be more so the equipment that they need, so that they can have, right now they have one truck go out and then they have another truck go out, or that same truck has to come back and get different equipment. This would just be more effective that they each have a truck to go out and mow. Fencing at the old park, they would like a tilt neck gooseneck so that they can transport some of the larger equipment. Maybe the mini hoe is part of that. There's a power upgrade needed at the park. Bleachers.
Maybe just explain that, Cammy, so we got money. We got all
Yeah.
4 of our grants. So we got 50,000 for Hooper Tomato Days. I mean, that we asked for a lot more, but 50,000 we were really
We'll
excited
take.
with. Yeah, so maybe kind of explain that as far
Okay,
as.
so yeah, over here I have income that is linked to that. And so like as part of the so the power upgrade, we may spend 14, but we have to budget for 14, but we're really only gonna spend 3 because 11 of that is income from a grant that we're getting. And then the next one down, the bleachers. So we have to budget 223.9 because that's what we think it's going to be. But we'll also budget 198.9 for grant income.
We got that much for a grant?
We got 120 for grant, and then we were going to use the rest of our
Oh, the impact fees.
fees. Yep. So that's what makes up that.
And that's for the west side? Where are we gonna put those?
So the south side, you know, those old woodlands?
Yeah.
So we're gonna tear those out and then just get portables to put in there, because then they can be used there or, you know, any place else that we would ever need them.
And then we've got pickleball sprinklers. We basically, this is kind of a combined project right there, those two. So we have the lawn and the pickleball sprinklers, and also I believe the parking lot is part of that.
Yes.
So we estimate that it'd be about 15 and 64, but we received 59,000 in grants. So really, we're going to
So to
spend
do the
20.
grass here, and they're going to make the parking lot, you know, there's a little tiny section between the parking lot and then to the west.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to just blacktop that and make the parking lot a little bit bigger over there, and then, yeah, we can do the sprinklers and the grass. Hopefully Debbie heard that, because she was really excited and said
Wow.
we'd like
You
to
there,
get the
Debbie?
grass.
Yes, I can hear, thank
Good.
you.
Yes,
Yeah,
Debbie, so you
that's
heard we
awesome.
did get the grant to do the lawn?
That's great.
Yeah.
Great.
And then also we've got the Public Works would like some material bins for in their yard to manage keeping some like different equipment, or not equipment, but like rocks and
Yes.
yeah, materials.
Mhm.
Addition for a metal building to keep parts in, and the track hoe that doesn't have a floor in it. Fencing and gates for the yard. Sprinkler system at the cemetery. We know that's pretty much going to be required of us, so I'll put that in for this year.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention with the pickleball too is we need to pay for the water connection, because we don't have, there's not the water line run for the sprinkling system, and that's estimated at 5,000. We don't know for sure, but we think that should come, but that comes out of that up above,
That
you know, that
15,
pickleball,
those
yes,
two.
yes.
So we estimate about 10 for sprinklers and 5,000 for that connection. And then we've got some Class C road money that we've committed to. We're committed to the 5100 project and the 5500 project. And then this particular 150, this is actually, we're gonna have to make a budget amendment this year for that particular item.
That's what we
What
ended
is
up over budget
Oh.
on the 55 from 4200 south down to the end of 5500 west. We're still hoping that we will maybe get some of that money back from Rocky Mountain Power. Because of their delay, it cost us, but we're still trying to figure out how to, and we don't know that we'll get that. That's just we're hoping that maybe they would, but there's no guarantee they'll give us money back.
So, right now, if we do everything we are looking at right here, we're gonna be spending, after the revenue, 916 of our fund balance. Are you all okay with that?
What's our fund balance?
Is
Our
one
fund
one?
balance in the capital projects fund is at 2.9.
And how
And
much, how much do we have to keep in there? You know how we're supposed
We
to?
don't have to have any floor on that one.
But we're adding
It's just in the
400.
general fund that we have to, can we have like the 5 to
35.
Yeah,
Okay.
just that general fund. And that's including the 269 in income.
What about the 400 we were adding from the general fund?
Oh, that's including that 400.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. No, we added 400 more into that, sorry.
So the decrease is 586.
Is there any other items that the council feels is important for the city to maybe more so
516.
get as, 516. To get, how do you feel about the truck? Do we I would like to kind of maybe plan things for the next 5 years, but understand it's very fluid. It is meant to be changed. but you want me to just to kind of go through and allocate it according to what Jared has expressed to me
Yeah, I think
and
so,
my
yeah.
best, and kind of keep it consistent? Is that
Mhm.
with the same price? Okay,
Like in year 2 and 3 and 4, etc.
yeah, to
Yeah.
kind of keep it around that same price
Mhm.
and allocate those so that we're not having a big expense one year. Okay. Okay. So I will do that, and just know that it is always up for discussion. So.
But that at least gives us a point to look at though, Cammy. If we put that in there, then we know where we have some,
We have a goal
yeah.
in mind, so. Okay.
So on that topic, when we met before, we briefly had mentioned all these highway line items. Some of them getting moved to stormwater,
Yes.
and a good chunk of them possibly going to capital projects. Like rather than staying in the highways fund,
Yeah,
creating a capital project for a certain piece of road every year or every couple of years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So rather than seeing it budgeted in the highway fund and then never being spent for 3 or 4 or 5 years like it has been in the past,
Yeah.
actually create a capital project and say, okay, we're moving towards a highway project every 2 years or 3 years or whatever we can afford.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that something we're gonna think about or what?
Well, and there's a couple ways that we can address that. Let's talk about that. What you as a council would like to kind of give me direction on that with. So right now, I have within our general fund the Class C roads, because right now that's where we have that funds going into. And then I have talked to Jared, and I says, okay, he gave me that list of everything that needed done, and I says, okay, Jared, what's kind of your priority? What do you think? And he says this is what he would like to kind of see within this expenses. So we're looking at 1.5 in overlays and all these various road things that qualify for Class C roads money.
So we have a project apparently planned somewhere if we have 1.1 scheduled to be spent.
Yeah,
Does anybody know what
this
that
he
is?
was saying.
Jared just had
was-
said to me, you tell me what money we have and then we'll plan the road.
He says it's 2 miles of overlay of asphalt, and he says straight HMA on asphalt, and then also edge mill and overlay for 2 miles. So that's 2 miles of the road.
So that's 4 miles total. That's being improved for 1.1. What a bargain.
I know. I'll be honest, he told me it was only 2 miles and I about threw up. So.
But somehow we kind of need to get a schedule. I mean, like Cammy said with the 20-year, because that's what he said, you just tell me what we have and we'll plan the project. So it sounds like a lot of money, but then it does you 2 miles.
I told him, I says, well, if we look at, what I'm estimating for Class C money and then what money we have for roads, we have 2.9 million. And he laughed at me and says, I can spend that in no time. And I sat there and thought, well, yeah, you've given me 1.5 million in expenses for just this year, and we're only bringing in 550. Ouch. I mean, there's $1 million that we're using a fund balance if we grant these things.
And so then the next year, if we spend our fund balance, we only get 550, then that tells us we have
So
to
if we
look
get
at here.
550 again, and we spend the same amount, our fund balance now is 405.
So what's the 316 for surface maintenance for? That we haven't spent before.
Says,
That's a project, I'm sure, somewhere.
yeah, surface maintenance road. I believe, that one is the 142. So that's an AP4 slurry sill, along with the 174, which is a chip rural road, no GNC
So
for
that's
2 miles.
2 miles and then 3 mile for the slurry seal, right?
Yeah.
So we've actually got 5,
I'm like,
6, 7.
oh.
We've actually got 9 miles of project right there.
Yeah.
Well, that's better than two.
And he seems to think, I says, Jared, are you really gonna be able to manage this? Because in the past you showed me you don't have the manpower to manage this.
Well, don't we
'Cause you're not
we
spending.
contract it all out, don't we?
Yeah, but you still gotta manage it, and he says, now with Cody on hand, I can manage it.
Right.
So, that was his exact,
Like we talked, we can only get 9 miles done a year. It's going to take us 10 years before we even get back around to the first road we started.
Right.
And will the road last 10 years before it's time for us to get back around?
But look, we haven't done hardly anything in the last 10 years.
yeah. So now we're at 20 years on some of those.
Like we've done 4200 south. What else? 5500 west.
He said they'll get a schedule too, and he said just say, what do we, we tell him, this is how much money you can spend. And he said then him and Cody will figure out, okay, these are the roads and this is what we will do, and then,
But I asked him, I says, do you feel like you can actually do this? Because in the past you've shown me you don't have the manpower
Sure.
to do it.
But
And he says,
he's
yes.
got a guy now.
Yep,
Yeah.
he's got a guy.
and we used to do potholes, and when Bryce was here, they did, I don't mean you Bryce, the other Bryce, I can pull, no, what was Bryce's last name? Darren's the pull, I can't remember, I'll think of it, but anyway, they used to do like their own potholes and things, but then we just haven't had a road person since he left.
So 9 miles for basically 1.4 million is what we're looking at for various methods of improvement.
Yeah, but he said they spent like 7 million for a half a mile, but that was widening and curb gutter and sidewalk.
And also, we could use some of these funds for, in theory, if we were wanting to use capital projects, or use Class C roads, these projects would qualify to use Class C roads money, but we don't have to use Class C road money for those. I think we've got enough in the other. So I think that's,
And we do have his list of 13 projects of a road at any time that could collapse
yeah.
that we need to take into account too.
And he said that.
And I think
That's
every one of
smart.
those ought to be a capital project, moved into a capital project with a dollar amount
Yes.
fixed to each one of them.
Yes, we
or
talked
an
about
estimate.
that.
And
Jared
I
already
asked him, I
left.
says, do you have a number for me, Jared?
Mhm,
And he says, not yet.
Yeah.
I says, okay, I'm on him to get me a number for those roads that are gonna fall in so that we can put those into the
For
5-year
sure,
plan.
this cemetery road, because it's used a lot. We can't have a coach going to we don't want that to be the day that our road collapses when someone's on the way to the funeral, or like we've noticed 4600 up here that's been sloughing. I mean, and I asked him, I think I already mentioned this, put a priority, and he said, whatever road fails, well,
We
Well, let's
can't
pick one.
start with one.
Yes, that's what I keep telling you.
just
Pick
pick
one.
one.
Just pick one for me. I need a one.
One thing he did mention was, and I don't know that this is accounted for anywhere, so there's that Parker subdivision, I believe that's 5800,
59.
5900. And so there's kind of like, well, I think he mentioned that to you, didn't he? The same kind of like 4200 is kind of a piecemeal. But when we're doing that, it would really be better if we did all of that at the same time like we did with 4200. That was one road that he mentioned we probably need to look at.
So I'll get better prices on him from that, and I'll say, pick one of these roads that are gonna fall in. Just pick one
Yeah.
and give me the price so that we
He
know what.
mentioned also that when there's a ditch that they are not us, a private person's piping down on, I believe it's 7400 west.
75, yeah.
Yeah, 75, and then where it connects, and he said really it would be better off, because they'll have this really nicer pipe in the ditch, and then we have our pipe that connects, that goes to their side, but that pipe's all rotted too. That he said really if we had the money while they were doing that, it would be really good if we connected. But I don't
But
think
that's a
that's
storm
listed.
monitor,
Yes,
and we
that-
only have 53,000 left in that after we do the 820. So we either need to raise prices or wait for some money to come in before we commit to any more stormwater projects. We don't really have the money to do anything big with stormwater.
Okay.
Okay. Was that helpful? I hope.
Yeah.
Bryce, you're giving me the look.
Glassy-eyed. No, it's good. Yeah, it's good to. I don't understand all of it, but it looks, like we're moving forward anyway.
Well, I think this is a really good start, and I feel like we've started early this year because we have March too, and anytime during a work meeting, we could always discuss this too if you wanted to. Our next budget work meeting is actually the fourth Thursday in March, but we could at any time too, because it's good to have a little more time to go through this.
And at the next work meeting, my anticipation is to actually have these printed off in a binder for you guys to have a physical copy. I just felt like there was so much still that was changing, we needed to discuss more. So I'll try and have some more information for you and also print it off in a binder for you. Now, granted, that binder will change. So, throughout these work sessions, and I fully anticipate that. So, okay.
So we did create the cemetery category then?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's being funded strictly by selling graves and services?
Well, not necessarily. It's funded by our general fund, but we could definitely look and see how that's equating.
Because
So cemetery,
that was why we collected property tax originally, right?
Yeah.
It was a cemetery in the park.
Yeah. So if we just look at the lots and the services, we're looking at 56,000. And if we look at the cemetery, let me get this down here, right here. Our cemetery was at 109, so no, it's not covering itself.
I think that's a really good idea Kemi has about perpetual though. You know, I
It's
never
just
really thought of that
guessing,
until she
but-
said, well, then what do we do? So then if you aren't getting any money at all, who does pay these wages? I mean, we'll always have to subsidize because like she said, we're not getting enough, but someday it might be building
So that's a one-time fee when somebody buys a plot. Do we just work that into the cost of the plot and separate it?
Yeah,
After
you
it's sold?
charge an additional, $300 fee per se, and then you put that $300 fee away, and then once the cemetery no longer is producing revenue, then the idea is that hopefully that $300 has earned interest, because we keep earning interest on that money, and then maybe that $300 is at 400. I'm just using a one amount, but 400. Well, we'd spend half of that. We could spend 50, and the city would subsidize the rest. But it's a way for those that are benefiting from it to continue to pay for the service, and it's not so much on the taxpayers. That just an idea, but I've seen it, and that seems to work well. But it's a political decision. So, yes. So as you're looking at your fee schedule, I would encourage you to consider if you want to increase your stormwater, if you feel like there's money there, because obviously the fund balance is pretty low on that stormwater, and I can see that possibly sneaking up on us more, especially with the new SWIP requirements. But I could be wrong.
So how quick can we do that study?
The impact fee study?
Yeah.
We would have to reach out to JUB, but if we've got the money left in the budget, we might as well use it and do it.
Stormwater
Or we
fees
can amend the budget to do it.
has been $5, and I don't know that I don't think we've ever raised that. I can't remember the first year we started charging the $5. So if we think we are going to need more money in there, that's one thing we've talked about. Kami and I, we've really got to keep up. You don't want to raise rates on your residents, but you can't all of a sudden get them and you're way far behind. We're going to have to do the sewer because they are raising it. I have that at home. I can't remember if it's either 6 or 8%. They already gave us what percent, and they are raising the rate for
With
Central
that
Weaver.
particular thing though, how we have it on the bill, whatever Central Weber, we're just basically a pass-through for this. So if they raise their rate, we just have to raise the citizens' rates, and then that funding just goes straight back out. We don't make anything on
Yes.
that. We're just simply a pass-through on that. So yes, if they do raise that, we'll automatically raise that fee no matter what, just because we have to.
The sheriff probably, and I have that too, did they send that to you, Cammy?
I
with
have
the
not
sheriff?
received anything
Oh,
from the
look.
sheriff.
I don't think it was going up.
going to be really bad, and then it was much better.
They said
Right
it
now
was
I've got a
not going to be
30,000
too much
increase.
more, but they thought next year it may go up as much as 200,000 or 300,000.
Because
Because
They
they're so short-staffed and they need more officers and, yeah, we have now, it's, I can't remember, like a task force that some of us are sitting on. We had our first meeting on Monday night and they went through things and, and I understand what they're saying because they say, they have an emergency in Huntsville and they have the closest officer, even if they have an officer in Huntsville, but the next closest one is in Ogden, how long anyway, so that's something they're working on, but it shouldn't go up. It maybe did a little bit, but not the significant increase we're probably going to see.
I was actually at a council meeting for another city a couple months ago, and they got up and presented, and it was astronomical compared to what they wanted. And I was like, choking. I was dying
But
myself.
again,
So
with
yes,
that,
it is true.
Washington Terrace used to have their own, and they said they're paying a lot less to, the sheriff than to have their own. So that's always something that we need to look at too. And I think I did I'll see if I do, and I can send that to you that you can
Okay.
plug in there. Theirs goes from, their fiscal year is January to December, where all of ours start in July, which always makes it kind of hard, because then we're trying to do our budget for July where they're putting theirs out. Anyway, I wish they'd and I'm not quite sure why they don't, because they're, but I don't know.
They're a special service, so they,
Oh, is that why?
yeah, the state requires them to be a calendar year.
Okay.
We are special. Yes.
Well, thank you, Cammy. I
Well,
think this has been, it's a lot. It's a lot to
Yeah.
digest. And we can keep,
I hope that by the time we're done, that you guys have buy-in on the budget, and that, literally you know it like instead of me just giving you numbers, it's your budget. So I hope when it comes to the end, you guys know what's in there as much as I do, so that you understand it and it's your input, because I can only do, I can make up numbers as much as I but it's not what your wish is, and I'm not the elected official, you guys are. And I need to make sure that, you have your input. So, okay,
Sounds good.
okay. I'll work on this, and then I'll plan, if you want me to come to work sessions, please let me know. I'm happy to see what I can accommodate.
she's right in the wrong, so tax season, so it makes it a little bit harder, but maybe if we could get you, if you think that at one of the work meetings before the end of March, would we want to see if Cammy could come in between now and one at the end of March?
I think if you've got more solid numbers, yeah. You're in charge of the budget, Ryan. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, right.
I think we don't need to have this done till what, 1st of June?
June.
Uh-huh.
I think we got time.
Time,
I
yeah.
mean,
We've got time, and it's good that we start now, because then it gives us time to think and digest and get numbers in and look at fee schedules and, so I think really, unless you feel a different need, really just getting together in March, I think we can get more solidified numbers, have better numbers. You've given me some direction, and that helps me a lot to know what you as a council desire, and then I can come back and say, okay, this is what we're thinking, and this is a better idea of what budget we're looking at, and then of course make changes.
I think the Acrylis one is the impact fees. I think that's probably, we
I
need
think
to
that's
tackle that
very
one quick.
critical.
So,
Yeah.
if we're way behind everybody else, it
Oh,
sounds like we are.
absolutely we are.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do this fee schedule on our own without Cammy. We
Yeah.
can go over
Oh,
this,
yeah.
Yeah.
with his recommendations.
And Morgan, maybe explain to them a little bit how we divided that up, and we've kind of gone through that.
So, and I can give you guys my little packet too on my notes that I've kind of done, but, so like each section of everything I kind of allocated to certain employees to look over. So I've given Steve the parks and whatever rentals. I've given Jared all the public works.
that, do keep in mind, and I'm not discouraging from, doing the best that you can to, make them as accurate as possible. But on the same token, your auditor will likely be looking at them to make sure that they are reasonable. The state has required auditors to start doing that. So, the last couple of years. So, like, you have to go through and you have to say, okay, you're charging a $2,000 connection fee. Is the pipe really $2,000 to do that connection? Is the manpower really $2,000? But is it, you want to be reasonable, but at the same time, you can't be way excessive.
And then lastly, I think it was Debbie that brought this up, or the mayor, I'm not sure, but they've also talked about doing a non-resident and resident fee within the park rentals. So that's something to consider, and then get rid of the deposits and just up the fee to cover.
So would that cover because I know we had lots of participation on Sundays last summer using electricity, and so
Garbage.
how do we enforce that? And is that kind of
So I think with the field rentals, we'll have to up our price just because toilet paper was a big thing, paper towels.
Can we specify certain days that those rentals are available?
Yeah, we can.
Like
Soccer hasn't
only-
come, the lacrosse team has, but I've put it kind of on hold until we have figured out.
Like Sundays, for example, only available to residents on Sunday? Can we say that? Or is that,
because they were holding full-blown tournaments, weren't they?
I know, they had
For
a whole
nothing.
place for
Yeah.
nothing.
No, they did pay.
They did?
They did,
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know
I
that.
stopped one Sunday with our son-in-law that speaks Spanish, and they did.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I
Paid
came
quite a
in,
bit.
they paid
Oh,
quite a
okay.
bit.
All right.
But
And
like,
the lacrosse team pays quite a bit for the
and
game.
the football
field
team
Okay.
paid quite. But like Ryan said, so down at the rodeo arena, we rent, it's rented Monday through Friday, and it starts like at 3:30, and we have a youth group and an adult. But we say on Saturday and Sundays, we don't rent it.
Right, yeah.
So that could be something if you wanted to say on parks, Sundays we're not renting it. The hard thing with that though is sometimes then they all show up and then we get no money from it. So then we have to figure out a way how to
Enforce it.
enforce that.
Yeah.
Bring taco trucks though.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's not something we need to look at and see.
I just know several times people have tried to come on Sunday and use the pavilions or rent the pavilions, and then they saw this huge conglomeration of people and they're like, forget it, it's not worth the fight.
Last year it was a little tricky. I think it was new to the whole soccer crew and the lacrosse group with Bowery Rental, so hopefully we have that more situated this year.
And we don't have a great big parking lot either.
No,
So you had, the whole parking lot was already filled with
That was
someone
it.
that was renting it, and
Yep.
someone else rented the pavilion.
Yep.
I think you were with your family reunion last year. You had the soccer group.
We did.
With your
yep,
family
that was
too.
the complaints I heard.
Yeah, and then it ended up bad weather, so we just had it at my house instead, but that was an issue. So that's certainly something council can look at if you don't even, but then if we don't, then somehow we need to get them not to still come and use it, because then like you say, we get no money, and they did pay us quite a bit of money. So, something to think
Maybe an
for you.
additional fee for Sundays and Saturdays, or something to deter.
You're paying
I don't
overtime
know.
for employees to be there. So.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the case, definitely.
Deborah's probably sleeping, right? Did you fall asleep, Deborah?
Oh, no, I'm awake, just thinking hard.
Well, thank you,
I hope
Kevin.
you're doing better, Debbie.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, is that
Well,
it?
let me know if you have
Thanks,
any
Debbie.
questions,
Thank you.
as always.
Recording.
Oh, painful. No offense, Penny. but that was
No,
painful.
no,